So it was only when I stopped weighing myself each morning that I actually started to lose weight. Because when you focus so much on the outcome, you forget all about the inputs. And the inputs are the things that actually create results. Now, when it comes to losing weight, that is eating the right food, that is moving your body consistently, that is drinking enough water, that is sleeping right. So this video is going to be all about the art of detachment and a focus on inputs. Welcome to a new video style which I'm doing called Coffee with George. It's a weekly Friday morning thing that I'm trying to launch where I'm halfway through my flat white because I live 10 minutes away from the coffee shop. So by the time that I'm ready to sit down and film, it's already lukewarm. But we chat shop, we talk about quite important topics, and today is going to be all around detaching from outcomes and focusing on inputs. Because we live in a world which is so obsessed of the number on the scale, the size of our clothes, because we're told to. And we're told that that's the only thing we should focus on when it comes to our weight loss journey. But here's the thing, none of that actually matters unless you actually do the things that move the scale or reduce the clothes size. And I feel like I'm pretty well versed and able to speak about this because for like 10 years straight, I would weigh myself consistently, sometimes multiple times a day to see if I'd lost a few pounds in that really sweaty cardio session that went for 2 hours, but often daily and more often than not, be really frustrated at the fact that the scale hadn't budged and ruin all the progress that I'd been making over the prior months. And unfortunately, I didn't just let that ruin the progress that I'd made over the last few months by maybe eating those calories back, but actually letting that mood dictate my day and the scale dictate my life for the next 24 hours. And it wasn't until I started to actually just detach from the scale, detach from all outcomes. And I mean everything here, guys. Like, I didn't weigh myself, I didn't look at myself in the mirror often, because these were all getting me back into that results orientated mindset. And instead, what I did was I just detached and I focused on the inputs every single day. I focused on getting my workouts in, I focused on hitting my food goals. And by the way, that doesn't mean like arbitrary numbers and counting calories. Again, I just focused on eating 3 meals a day, which were balanced across protein, fats, carbs, and fiber. Focused on the inputs, sleep being another one, for example. And there's this really nice analogy that paints this picture really well, which is like weight loss is a long-term thing, right? It's something that should take, 6 months to lose north of 10, 15, 20 kilos. It shouldn't be something that does take us a few weeks, even if we'd like it to. And there's a really nice analogy, which is like, imagine you've planted a tree. A tree can take years to grow, right? It's like digging that seed up consistently each morning to check if that tree is growing, instead of just watering it, allowing it to have sunlight, and seeing it grow over time. And so I don't want you to be the person that keeps checking on whether his tree is growing. I just want you to be the person that continues to water the tree and allow it to get sunlight and see its growth over time, because it's evident in its image, in its roots, rather than, and again, taking it back to maybe a more human example here, rather than what number is on the scale or what size pants you're wearing, for example. Because the only thing that you can actually control is the inputs, the work that you're exactly doing. And it's the inputs that you can control that are actually going to change the outcome. Like if you hit your step goals, if you eat your consistent meals, like if you move your body consistently, you eat your meals, you sleep well, you consume enough water, you're not going out on the piss on the weekends, regardless if you jump on the scale or not, the scale would have dropped if you're doing the right things week in week, day in day. Another example of this, like in reality, was when I used to work in recruitment. We used to have these metrics of sending 5 applications to employers a week. And what was correlated was obviously the number of CVs, the applications you would send to employers, and the commission you would make, you know, in that period of time. And I used to get to this really weird stage where I would, send 6, 7, sometimes 10 CVs instead of the 5, and I'd be making great commissions. And then I'd kind of just chill out. I'd stop sending as many CVs. I'd start sending 2 or 3 a week. And then I'd wonder why my commission had dropped. But it was obvious. It was because I wasn't putting the inputs in. And it's the same thing when it comes to our weight loss goals. And when it comes to tracking of data, like counting calories, tracking how many steps you're doing, tracking how many calories you're burning in a single workout, I do think there's a grey mist here, and there is a fine line. I personally don't believe that you need to count calories in order to lose weight, but I do definitely recommend that my clients have an understanding of how many steps they're doing a day or how many workouts they're hitting a week, for example, because that is part of the inputs, and that is something that you can't really reverse engineer. So, for example, we can use portion based eating strategies instead of calorie counting apps to understand how much food we're actually putting in our body from a quality as well as quantity point of view. But we can't really reverse engineer step counts and, how many workouts we're hitting. Like, that is just objective data that needs to be, accounted for. But other than that, I think that's really all the data that we need to have a bit of a grasp on and understand what we're doing. Because if we're consistently hitting our step goals and our workouts and we're eating right, we're sleeping well, we're drinking enough water, like weight loss is a byproduct. We don't necessarily need to take a photo of ourselves in the mirror every single day or every week. We don't need to weigh ourselves consistently every single day or week. We don't need to, understand what pant size we are this week versus last. And yes, I still do recommend that people do take some of that data, maybe on, less of a frequent basis than daily, to have that kind of objective knowledge, because there will be some days where you feel like you are moving backwards and it's like, well, hey, no, actually, you've lost X kilos or you've lost X centimeters off your waist, or hey, here was you 3 months ago versus now in picture form. But I don't think we need to be as obsessive around that tracking of the data and as high frequency as most would proclaim online. And this is because we start to become just process orientated rather than results orientated. And yeah, it just makes life so much more calm, stress free when you actually become this process orientated person. You don't have this worry around and anxiety around, hey, am I going to hit my weigh in weight this week? Or hey, is this going to happen this month? Again, if I were to put that back to me in recruitment, my worry would just always be, hey, am I going to hit my monthly target for commission this month? But if I just focused on the inputs because I've reverse engineered that data, then I only have to worry if I'm not hitting my inputs. And then I have to understand, well, how can I better hit my inputs? How can I send more CVs? So I think that is all for coffee chat number one with George. I was so invested in talking that I forgot to do any of the coffee. Still lukewarm. Maybe I need to stop going to the coffee shop and just make it downstairs. But if you were one of those absolute legends, I know legend isn't like a cool thing to call someone in Australia, but in the UK, a legend's a good thing. If you were one of those legends that got to the end of this video, I'd love to know what resonated the most, what the biggest kind of takeaway was. If you could drop that below in the comments, that'd be amazing. And I'll make sure I personally respond to that. But if you're going to take one thing away from this, is just please stop tracking and focusing on results. Please just focus on inputs, focus on progress, focus on process, and just make sure that you're doing the right things as inputs day by day related to training, movement, sleep, food, etc., etc. And the results are only inevitable.